All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing The Hidden City by Michelle West. This is book number 3 in her massive 16-book series, House War / Sun Sword series. I know that's 2 series here that we've got, but they kind of intermingle, and I am reading both series in chronological order, not publication order. So this book falls at number 3 in the series, even though it's book number 1 in the House War series. It's book number 3 overall in the chronological of this big, massive fantasy tale. This book came out in 2007, and let's talk about the covers first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. Every single one of the books in this series, except for one of them, has a cover by Jody Lee. This one's cool. I love the color. I love the subtlety of the flowers and how sort of dead they look. And then I love our little main character, Jewel, here with her dagger. It's just a really good looking book. And like I said, all of the books have great Jody Lee illustrations. If you want to watch my reviews of book 1, Hunter's Oath, you know how to do it. Type in my last name to the YouTube search bar. Type in the name of the book. The book review will show up, I promise. I reviewed book 1, Hunter's Oath. And I've reviewed book 2, Hunter's Death. And now we're to book 3, The Hidden City. And we'll eventually read and review all of them, folks. So the covers are dope. The story is dope. Let's get to it. This book reminded me a lot of the things that happen in this book. Expound on things that happened in these first 2 books. It's not that you need to read them in the order I'm reading them, but I kind of like to read them in the order I'm reading them because it's the chronological order. So the things that happened in these 2 books, there was a character named Jewel introduced in these first 2 books, didn't have a big part, but now she's got her own novel, and we get to follow her through the entire series. Well, we get to follow all the characters through the entire series. But the next 3 books in the series are kind of focused more on her. Jewel Marcus, yes. So this book reminded me a lot of just the whole setup of that movie, The Professional, starring Natalie Portman and Rene Russo. Maybe you remember that. The assassin that takes in the young girl who has just watched her family die, and he sort of mentors her in the arts of assassination. That's kind of the plot of this, but in a fantasy world. So let's talk about that. Wrath is the man. He's an older man. He is a man who has abandoned his family after his sister has become the head of the noble house Terrafin. He's got issues with his family. He's got issues with the nobles. His sister's now the head of one of the noble houses. And he's decided to become a recluse. He's a swordsman who travels without a sword. And he does that on purpose. He just knows the swords are valuable. He doesn't need to be flashing his sword everywhere. But he's a badass swordsman. He travels through he prowls. I guess you would say just prowls and kind of sneaks about the underbelly, undercity of the big city, Avarallan. And Avarallan is the big city within this world we're talking about. And I will be honest, some of the books have a pretty good map of the world, and some of them there's no map. It's just the map doesn't exist in the book at all. It doesn't exist in this book. Let me see. Let me make sure I'm not misspeaking. There might have been a map of the city of Avarallan, but nope, there wasn't. Anyway, Wrath, he travels through the underbelly of the city, and he looks for relics. He looks for antiques. He looks for intricate items of an older age that he likes to sell on sort of the black market. Anyway, while he's out doing this, Jewel Marcus, our main character, she shows up. She's a street urchin, an orphan, a thief. She pickpockets him, steals his money. But he's a pretty wise guy, wise to the world. He kind of follows her. He's like, he's not too worried about it. He's like, I'm gonna get the money back from her. I'll figure out who she is, where she lives. I'll get the money back. Anyway, when he does eventually find her, she is deathly ill. She has fallen ill to some disease, and he takes pity upon her and takes her into his home that's sort of in the underbelly of the city, and nurses her to health. And this is like where this thing starts to take on sort of the traits of that movie, The Professional, where an older guy and a very young girl, because she's only about 10 or 11 or 12, takes on someone who has no family and nurses her to health. She grows attached to him. She's like, I insist on paying you back somehow for saving my life. You didn't need to. There's no sexual things going on in this book. There's no sexual tension. It's all above Grant Peachy. There's no weirdness to it. But she does want to pay him back by kind of joining his little hunting for treasures kind of thing. And in the process of this, she brings in sort of a crew of other street urchins into his realm of sphere of what he's doing. And and they become like this sort of Lies of Loch Lamora-esque street urchin guild of thieves slash pranksters slash whatevers. And we get to meet a whole cluster of characters from the street urchin crew. I mean, and they're a delightful group. There's Carver, Duster, Finch, Teller, Lander, Oma, Lefty. I'm probably leaving some out, but it's a great group of people that we get to adventure around the underbelly of the city. Like I said, this is kind of like The Professional mixed with the Lies of Loch Lamora. And the way that it ties into the first two books, in the first two books, the characters in that book were fighting some demons that had been banished to the underworld or whatever, and these demons had once destroyed the empire entirely. Well, they're stirring again in the first two books. And this book kind of takes place alongside these first two, where Jewel is in these two, but she's also got more of her main role in this book, where the demons and the whole thing like that and everything. And it's just a really cool book, and I really liked it a lot. It's just a great 16-book fantasy series where the books are all about 700-800 pages each. Just absolutely well written. Characters are cool. Everything about it is cool. There's a lot of action and adventure. I really like this series. I'm going to give The Hidden City a solid 9 out of 10 stars.